What are we gonna do tonight, OCG?
Well, the same thing we try to do every night, Bertram. Take over YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Obsessive Compulsive Gaming. I am the Obsessive Compulsive Gamer, joined once again by my faithful manservant / buck-totem Bertram. Say hello, Bertram.
Hello, Bertram.
And this is our retrospective for Final Fantasy X. So, dear viewer, don't you dare forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video.
What is this?
I'm so glad you asked, Barry Burton. So, Final Fantasy X is a role-playing video game, or RPG if you will, developed and published by Squaresoft in 2001. A year I remember fondly as the year I began an illicit affair with Cloud Strife.
Oh, poor Tifa.
Poor Tifa? Poor me. The man is hung like a bloody horse. My backside is in a worse state than the ruins of Zanarkand. Anyway, Final Fantasy X is the 10th main entry in the Final Fantasy series.
Oh, that means it's probably terrible.
What makes you say that?
Well, 10th entries in popular series are always terrible. Just look at Jason X or Hellraiser Judgment.
Ah, but they are movies, Bertram. We are talking about video games.
But I don't know another game series with more than 10 mainline titles.
Well, it must suck to be you, Bertram. Ha ha.
Well, Smarty Pants, name another 10th mainline entry in a video game series.
Fine. There's, shut up, Bertram. Ha! Set in the fantasy world of Spira, also known as Spira, a setting influenced by the South Pacific, Japan, and Thailand. But sadly, unlike Thailand, this game does not feature any ladyboys or chicks with dicks, to use the scientific terminology.
Oh, you're a big fan of chicks with dicks, sir.
I am indeed, Bertram. I am indeed. So, Final Fantasy X's story revolves around a group of adventurers and their quest to defeat a rampaging monster known as Sin, also known as Sin, also known as a big whale-looking brother from another mother. Now our main character this time is Tidus, a star athlete in the fictional sport of Blitzball, who finds himself in Spira, also known as Spira, after Sin, also known as Sin, also known as a big whale-looking brother from another mother, destroyed his home city of Zanarkand. Now, shortly after arriving in Spira, Tidus becomes a guardian to Summoner Yuna, also known as this game's love interest / Totty. And together with their friends, they vow to destroy Sin, who just so happens to be Tidus's missing father, Jacked. Yes. So, let's talk about the development of Final Fantasy X. Now, Final Fantasy X began development in 1999 and was worked on by a team of over 100 people, most of whom worked on previous games in the series. executive producer Hironobu Sakaguchi has stated that although he had concerns about the transition from 2D to 3D backgrounds, the voice acting, and the transition to real-time storytelling, the success of the Final Fantasy series can be attributed to constantly challenging the development team to try new things.
Oh, he had good reason to be concerned about the voice acting. Most of it is terrible.
'Tis true. I have heard better acting in a commercial for thrush cream, but I'm just happy to finally have a Final Fantasy game with voice acting. Where was I? Let's see, blah, try new things. Oh yes. Producer Yoshinori Kitase was also the chief director of Final Fantasy X, while the direction of events, maps, and battles was split up between Motomu Toriyama, Takayoshi Nakazato, and Toshiro Tsushida, respectively. And if I mispronounced any of those names, I don't care. The script for the game took approximately 3 to 4 months and was written by Tetsuya Nomura, Kazushige Nojima, Daisuke Watanabe, Toriyama, and Kitase. Coincidentally, it also took 3 to 4 months to do the voice recording afterwards.
And where did they find the quote-unquote voice actors? Wandering around the office?
Well, I can't confirm this, but I did once hear a rumor that all of the voice actors in this game were recruited from a brothel in Japan. Like I said, I can't confirm if it's true.
Have you ever visited a brothel in Japan?
Sadly not, Bertram. But I did write a martial arts film set in one. I called it Crouching Prostitute Hidden Sausage. Haha, that was a good script. What was I talking about before? Oh, yes. Music for Final Fantasy X was composed by Nobuo Uematsu, Masashishi Hamose, and Junya Nakano. Now, they were chosen for the soundtrack based on their ability to create music that was different from Uematsu's style, while still being able to work together. Now, the soundtrack, as well as featuring the usual instrumental tracks, also includes 3 songs with vocals.
What do you think of the music in this game, OCG?
Didn't you pay attention during my review, Bertram?
No.
Well, at least you're honest. So, what else can I tell you about the development of Final Fantasy X? Oh yes! Now apparently, the game was called 1717 early in Final Fantasy X's production. Apart from being a bloody terrible title, 17, that's the number 17, 17, as in SEVEN, apart from being an absolutely bloody terrible title, 1717's story differed from the final version. The protagonist, who looked similar to Tidus, traveled the world seeking a cure for a pandemic that killed people when they reached the age of 17. Now, this inevitable death motif was later carried over to Yuna's fate as a summoner in Final Fantasy X. Luckily, someone at Squaresoft saw sense, and the game was changed to the Final Fantasy X we know and kinda love today.
Kinda love?
Well, love is maybe too strong a word. I'd say, I like it a lot. Yes, right. So let's quickly recap the entire story from beginning to end. Wait a minute. Have a sip of my coffee. Which tastes an awful lot like a gin and tonic. Right, let's go. So, the game begins. Tidus waits with his allies outside the ruins of an ancient city. He narrates the events that led to the present, spanning most of the game's storyline. The game begins proper in his home city, the high-tech metropolis of Zanarkand, where he is a renowned Blitzball player and son of the famous Blitzball star Jecht, an abusive father who disappeared 10 years prior. During a Blitzball tournament, the city is attacked by an immense creature that Auron, a man not originally from Zanarkand, calls Sin, also known as Sin, also known as a big weird whale-looking thing. Now Sin destroys Zanarkand and takes Tidus and Auron to the world of Spira, also known as Spira. Now upon arriving in Spira, Tidus is rescued by Al-Bhed salvagers, with the young Rikku explaining that Sin destroyed Zanarkand 1,000 years ago. After Sin attacks again, Tidus is separated from the divers and drifts to the tropical island of Besaid, where he meets Wakka, captain of the local Blitzball team. He has a stupid haircut. Wakka introduces Tidus to Yuna, a young summoner about to go on a pilgrimage to obtain the final Aeon and defeat Sin. With her guardians Lulu, a mage of black magic, and Kimahri, a member of the Ronso tribe. The party travels across Spira to gather Aeons, defending against attacks by Sin and its offspring, called, unsurprisingly, Sinspawn. Tidus meets Auron again, who convinces Tidus to become Yuna's guardian upon revealing that Jecht is Sin's true identity.
Oh my!
Yes. 10 years ago, Auron and Jecht bodyguarded Yuna's late father Braska to defeat Sin. But Jecht became a new Sin. As Yuna's party continues their pilgrimage, Tidus reunites with Rikku, who the party learns is Yuna's cousin. When the party arrives in the city of Guado Salam, the leader of the Guado and major clergy member, Seymour Guado, proposes to Yuna, saying that it will ease Spira's sorrow. At Macalania Temple, the group discovers a message from the spirit of Seymour's father, Lord Jiskel. He declares that he was killed by his own son. Ha ha, how Shakespearean. And that Seymour now aims to destroy Spira. The group reunites with Yuna and kills Seymour in battle. Soon afterwards, Sin attacks, separating Yuna and sending the others to the arid Bikanel Island. Now, while searching for Yuna at the island's Al-Bhed settlement, Tidus has an emotional breakdown when he learns that summoners die after summoning the final Aeon, leading to his desire to find a way to defeat Sin whilst keeping Yuna alive. I mean, after all, they cannot consummate their ongoing relationship if she's dead. Well, I suppose they could, but that would be kind of weird. Anyway, back to the story recap. The group finds Yuna in Bevel, the center of the clergy's power, where she is being forced to marry the unsent Seymour. They crash the wedding, after which Seymour reveals his plan to become Sin with Yuna's help. The party defeats him a second time and escapes with Yuna. The group heads towards the ruins of Zanarkand, seen in the introduction of the game. Now, shortly before arriving at Zanarkand, Tidus learns that he, Jecht, and the Zanarkand that they hail from are summoned entities akin to Aeons based on the original Zanarkand and its people. Long ago, the original Zanarkand battled Bevel in a Machina war, in which the former was defeated. Zanarkand survivors became Faith, so that they could use their memories of Zanarkand to create a new city in their image, removed from the reality of Spira. Once they reached Zanarkand, Yuna, the first summoner to defeat Sin, and unsent ever since, tells the group that the final Aeon is created from the faith of one close to the summoner.
My god, this is so complicated.
Shut up, Bertram. Now, after defeating Sin, the final Aeon kills the summoner and transforms into a new Sin, which has caused its cycle of rebirth to continue. The group decides against using the final Aeon due to the futile sacrifices it carries and the fact that Sin would still be reborn. Yuna tries to kill Tidus's group, but she is defeated in battle and vanishes, ending hope of ever attaining the final Aeon. After the fight, the group learns that Yu Yebin, the deity of the Yebin religion, who was a summoner from Zanarkand before losing his humanity and mind, is behind Sin's cycle of rebirth. This leads the group to infiltrate Sin's body in order to find Yu Yebin. Now, inside Sin, the party finds, you guessed it, the unsent Seymour, who had been absorbed by Sin and intends to control it from within. Yuna defeats him for the final time before sending him to the far plane. Shortly after, the group reaches the core of Sin and finds Jecht's imprisoned spirit. Tidus and Jecht come to terms with the latter's abuse, and Jecht transforms into his final Aeon form, asking the party to defeat him and end the cycle. Of course, they do so. Haha. With Sin's host defeated, Yuna summons, and the group defeats each Aeon after Yu Yebin possesses each one until finally they vanquish Yu Yebin himself.
I'm gonna say it again, this is so complicated.
Shut up, Bertram, we're almost done. Sin's cycle of rebirth ends when Yuna sends Sin and the Aeons to the far plane, and the spirits of Spira's faith are freed from their imprisonment. Auron, who had been revealed to be unsent, is sent to the far plane. Dreams Anakin and Tidus disappear, now that the freed faith stopped the summoning. Afterward, in a speech to the citizens of Spira, Yuna resolves to help rebuild their world now that it is free of sin. In a post-credit scene, Tidus awakens underwater and drowns miserably. No, sorry, I misread that last part. In a post-credit scene, Tidus awakens underwater and swims towards the ocean's surface. Ha ha! Splendid! Don't you think so, Bertram? Bertram, are you asleep again? God damn it! Right, so let's talk a little bit about the setting of Final Fantasy X.
Oh, do we have to?
Yes! Final Fantasy X is set in the fictional world of Spira, also known as Spira, and it consists of 3 subcontinents surrounded by small tropical islands.
What is a subcontinent?
I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with being in continents.
Oh, I doubt that.
Or maybe the word is to do with a continent you would find inside a sub, or submarine, if you will.
That doesn't make any sense.
You don't make any sense, Bertram. Stop asking questions and let me get on with this section. Otherwise, we'll be here all bloody night. So, Spira, also known as Spira, features locales like Bisset, Kilika, Mihen, Macalania, and Mount Gagazet.
Is Spira a real place?
What do you think, Bertram?
Yes? No? Maybe?
This is a video game, so of course Spira is a real place. Ha ha! It is very different from the mainly European-style worlds found in previous Final Fantasy games, being much more closely modelled on Southeast Asia.
But sadly, it does not feature any of the ladyboys or chicks with dicks that you so adore.
Yes, 'tis true. But there is a variety of races, though predominantly you'll encounter humans in the game. Among them are the Albed, a technologically advanced subgroup of humans with distinctive green eyes and unique language.
Oh, I met an Albed person once.
Oh, really? You never told me about this.
Yes, it was 2 years ago in the town of South Park, and he was called Big Gay Albed.
Oh, fascinating. Now, Spira is also home to the Guado, which are less human in appearance with elongated fingers. The main villain of this game, Seymour, is a Guado. There are other races, including the lion-like Ronso and the frog-like Hypello. We also have what the game calls the Unsent, strong-willed spirits of the dead that remain in corporeal form. In Spira, the dead who are not sent to the far plane by a summoner come to envy the living and transform into fiends, also known as monster bastards. And these monster bastards are who you encounter and fight throughout the game. There's also the usual mechanical enemies, giant insects and chocobos, who, like a prostitute, you can ride for a fee. Haha. So, let's talk about the characters in the game. There are 7 main playable characters in Final Fantasy X, starting with Tidus, a cheerful young teenager and a star Blitzball player from Zanarkand, who seeks a way home after an encounter with Sin transported him to Spira. Now, Tidus was originally envisioned to be a plumber, as to connect to the underwater elements used in the game. This was according to Nojima, but they later made him into a Blitzball athlete, helping to distinguish his character from prior Final Fantasy protagonists. Though Tidus's final outfit still incorporated elements of the original plumber outfit they had designed for him.
A plumber? Like Super Mario?
Indeed.
Well, I'm glad they changed that.
As am I, Bertram. The only place I want to see a bloody plumber is fixing my toilet when I flush one too many body parts, or in a 70s softcore pornographic film. So, Tidus joins up with Yuna, a summoner on a journey to obtain the final Aeon and defeat Sin. Journeying with them are Kimahri Ronso, a young warrior of the Ronso tribe who has watched over Yuna since her childhood. Wakka, a Blitzball player with a stupid haircut, whose younger brother was killed by Sin. And Lulu, a stoic black mage close to Yuna and Wakka.
Didn't she win the Eurovision Song Contest at some point?
She did indeed, Bertram. Now, during the journey, our little group are joined by Auron, a former warrior monk who worked with both Tidus's and Yuna's fathers to defeat Sin 10 years prior.
Did you know that Auron was originally supposed to be a silent protagonist?
I did indeed, Bertram.
Oh.
Finally, we have Rikku, who is Yuna's cousin, a perky owl-bed girl, and the first friendly person Tidus meets upon arriving in Spira.
Rikku is voiced by Tara Strong, who was also Harley Quinn in Arkham City, and played Lollipop Chainsaw.
You don't have to tell me that, Bertram. I am aware of Miss Strong's work. I often listen to her voice acting whilst I shower.
That's not creepy at all.
There are other characters in the game like Seymour, Brother, Sid, and Jekt.
Who's Jekt again?
Tidus's father. And somehow the poor bastard has gotten himself turned into Sin.
Oh, that's right. Now I remember.
Now, Tidus's relationship with Jekt was based on stories throughout the ages, such as the ancient Greek legends. This would eventually reveal the key of Sin's weakness and how to defeat the whale-looking bastard. Although Final Fantasy X was originally centered on the relationship between Tidus and Yuna, the addition of Jekt's character and his feud with his son was added later in the making of the game to provide more focus on how the father and son have a bigger impact in Spira's history, rather than the romantic couple. Katase found the story between Tidus and Jet to be more moving than the story between Tidus and Yuna, and I have to disagree. He obviously didn't pay attention to the game's ending, which even now makes me cry more than that time I got my penis stuck in the fridge door.
How did you... Oh, never mind.
So, let's talk about the gameplay for this game. We control Tidus and move around the game world interacting with objects and people. But sadly, we cannot beat up random old people or engage in intercourse with NPCs.
And an NPC is...
A non-playable character.
Oh, and a character is...
Shut up, Bertram. Now, unlike previous games in this series, Final Fantasy X does not feature a world map, but rather a series of interconnected locations that you can later fast travel to using an airship. Map director Nakazato wanted to implement a world map concept with a more realistic approach than that of the traditional Final Fantasy game, in line with the realism of the game's 3D backgrounds, as opposed to pre-rendered backgrounds. So, combat. Like previous Final Fantasy games, this is a turn-based RPG. So in battle you control up to 3 characters, though a swapping system allows you to replace them with a character outside the active party at any time. Now each character will take it in turns to either attack the enemy, cast magic on them, or heal allies and or buff them up. Sounds boring, doesn't it?
Not really.
Granted, I used to love turn-based combat, but I've been so spoiled by the more action-centric Final Fantasy games like Final Fantasy 15, 7 Remake, and most recently, Final Fantasy 16.
You do like action.
I do.
Especially if it involves chicks with dicks.
I do. Haha. Now, limit breaks, highly damaging special attacks, make an appearance in Final Fantasy X. But this time, they are called overdrives. In this version, most of the techniques are interactive, requiring button inputs to increase their effectiveness. What's different in Final Fantasy X is the way it handles summons. This time, 1, they are called Aeons, and 2, only Yuna can use summons, and they replace the party when called upon. They have their own HP, and they will stay until the battle is won, or the enemy fucks the Aeon up. Now you get 5 Aeons as part of the game's story, with another 3 obtainable through side quests. So, what else can I tell you about the gameplay? Oh yes! Now, like previous games in the series, Final Fantasy X features numerous mini-games, including the underwater sport Blitzball, which I find about as enjoyable as burning off my pubic hair with a soldering iron.
Ouch!
I hate it. It's essentially football or soccer but underwater. You pass, you tackle, you score, and not in a good way. You can upgrade your team members, blah blah blah. I'm bored talking about it already. So, let's move on and discuss the sphere grids. As with previous titles in the series, you develop and improve your characters by defeating enemies and acquiring experience points. But in this game, they are called AP.
PP?
No, not AP. Ability points.
Oh!
Now you use these ability points to move around a grid and unlock nodes to upgrade your character's stats. And you can do this for all the characters. You can also unlock spells, etc. So for example, you can turn mage characters like Yuna into physical powerhouses. Or physical powerhouses like Auron into healers. Now at the start of the game, you can choose between a standard sphere grid or an expert sphere grid.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, the expert version starts each character in the middle of the sphere grid, so they can follow it however they want. But it does have fewer nodes, which means you can't get as many stat upgrades.
So why would you choose the expert sphere grid?
I don't know, freedom of choice? Who cares? You use it to upgrade your characters. Final Fantasy X was released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 to critical acclaim. 2 years later, there will be a direct sequel called Final Fantasy X2, and in 2013, both games will be remastered and released as Final Fantasy X/X2 HD Remaster for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. Now that collection would release for the PlayStation 4 in 2015, Windows in 2016, and for the Nintendo Switch and Xbox One in 2019. Haha, sucks to be you, Nintendo Switch and Xbox One. Today, Final Fantasy X is regarded as one of the better Final Fantasy games. And while we wait for Final Fantasy X3, which will probably never materialize, if you haven't already, then I implore you, dear viewer, to buy, download, steal, or sell your body to get your hands on Final Fantasy X and play it, goddammit! And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our retrospective for Final Fantasy X. If you enjoyed this little video of ours, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't enjoyed it, well then feel free to give me a thumbs down. If you would like to see my review for Final Fantasy X, or a full playthrough with hilarious commentary by yours truly, both of those videos are on the channel right now. So go and watch them, goddammit! But please remember the single most important thing I always tell you, dear viewer, and that is to always stay obsessed with gaming. Say goodbye, Bertram.
Goodbye, Bertram!
Are you still here? Oh, you must have really enjoyed this video then. In that case, you had better subscribe to the channel and check out our other content. Otherwise, you're a booby pants, and no one wants to be a booby pants.